Hello, this is Blaine McCormick from the Baylor Business School with a quick tutorial on the Balanced Scorecard and the Foundation Business Simulation. I call it Built to Last because the Balanced Scorecard is very good at helping participants of the Foundation Simulation build companies that are successful in the long term, good, healthy companies that, it doesn't just look at profit maximization or maximizing customer satisfaction or maximizing employee satisfaction or internal efficiency, but it combines those four areas and gives a nice balanced scorecard to help you navigate the simulation and build a healthy company. So where we're going, I've got three basic things I'm going to say in this video, and we're just going to look at the basic categories on the balanced scorecard and help you think about them in a helpful way. And then I'll look at the recap score, which confuses some participants of the foundation simulation. And then I'll take a quick look at the pro forma balanced scorecard and some mistakes that first-time participants make using their pro forma balanced scorecard. So let's look at the 14 categories in round one of the simulation. You have these 14 things that you're measured on, which sounds like a lot, but it's really not that many to master. And I think of them as having three different types. There's some things that you want to maximize. For example, you want to get the highest stock price possible. You want to have the highest profits, the highest contribution margin, et cetera, et cetera. And so this list is the things you want to maximize. There's, in contrast, some things that you want to minimize. You want to minimize stock out costs and inventory costs. And then there's some things that you just have to balance. You want to balance your leverage. You don't want to have too much, too high of a leverage score or too low of a leverage score. You want it just right. Or not too many days of working capital or too few days of working capital, but just right. And so I think there's three kind of basic types of measures there. And let's go ahead and take a look at those measures here. This is Team Ferris, and there's 5 rounds of their score. We're just here in round 1 on the scorecard. And you can see they scored 45 out of 82 possible points. And so here's the 4 areas of the balanced scorecard. So it's measuring you across 4 different things. And here's stock price. And if we click on it, or if we mouse over it, you can see it says click for more information. And so let's click on profits, and it'll tell you exactly what you need to do to get your maximum score. You have to have more than $7 million of profits and you get full credit. If you have less than $1 million of profits, you get no credit. But anywhere between $1 and $7 million, you have kind of credit on this sliding scale there. That's a maximization one, just like customer buying criteria is. If you have a satisfaction of 40 and above, which is hard to do in the first round, you get full credit. No credit if you're below 20. And some credit if you're between 20 and 40, just depending on where you are on there. So those are maximization ones. The minimization ones look just the opposite. Inventory carrying cost. You want to minimize those, and so if you have less than 1% carrying cost, you get full credit. If you have greater than 3.5% carrying cost, you get no credit, and then a sliding scale in between. The balanced scores look a little bit different here, like days of working capital. Kind of looks like this. And it just says, the sweet spot here is between 30 and 90 days of working capital. If you have less than 15 days, you get no credit. Or if you have too much working capital, greater than 105 days, you get no credit. And then some credit in between 90 and 105 and 15 and 30 days. But there's a nice big sweet spot here in the middle. To motivate you to have the right kind of working capital. And so that way you can kind of drill in and see what your exact targets are round to round. And so those are the round 1 categories. In round 2, the HR module goes live if you're playing with that, and you add another minimization function of employee turnover rate. You want to minimize turnover to the greatest degree possible. And then in round 4, the TQM module goes live, and you add a lot of maximization ones over here, so I just kind of had to abbreviate here, but you add 4 more functions in learning and growth. You want to maximize material reduction, R&D reduction, administrative cost reduction, and maximize your demand increases using your TQM decisions. And so that brings it to a grand total of 19 things that you're being measured on the balanced scorecard by round 4. And so, but thinking about them in these 3 ways is kind of it helped me understand the balanced scorecard a little bit better. The more I played. Then there's this thing called the recap score, and I'll talk about it in the same way, but let's go take a quick look at the recap score here. Um, your recap score is this one over here. You're scored round to rounds. There's round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4, and round 5. And your recap score is this one over here, and then this is your total score. All together, it's all those added up. But the recap score, I'll click through it and kind of scroll up a little bit. It's got different areas than your round to round score. And so you can see, but it's got some of the same things on there. So I'm going to go back to here. The recap score is a special scorecard that rewards success over the long term. Your round-to-round things are kind of your short-term goals, and your recap score is your long-term goals, is a useful way of thinking about it. And there's 8 things that you want to maximize and 1 thing that you really want to minimize. So we'll start with the minimization. You want to minimize emergency loans, and it has a little calculus that it does on your emergency loans, and you can't have more than 1% of total sales, I think, being emergency loans, but we'll look at that a little bit closer. And then there's other things that you want to maximize. It'll look at your market cap as a percentage of the value of your industry at the end. You know, how big are you at the very end of the game? What's your average of sales across all 8 rounds? What's your cumulative operating profit? Your average market share across all 8 rounds? These are things that look for long-term viability, and the way you get a great recap score is just being healthy round to round and not doing anything funny. You know, grow as hard as you can and play as hard as you can round to round, and you'll do just fine on your recap score. You really hurt your recap score 2 ways. One, taking emergency loans hurts your recap score. Anytime you have a cash shortfall and take a big emergency loan, you hurt yourself. But a more common way of hurting your recap score is to do some end gaming shenanigans. Things players get to the late rounds and they think, okay, so this is round 8, so I'm going to do something that really increases my cash flow or does something really great for my profits, allegedly, like I'll sell all my capacity and take the cash. That sounds like a pretty good idea in the short term, but it's really going to hammer your recap score in things like assets per employee. You're going to lose all your points there because you don't have any assets left, and so that one's going to drop out. And your operating profit is going to get cut out from under you if you look at your recap score there. So let's say if you sell all your assets at the end, you lose these 20 points, or you gut your operating profit because it doesn't take into account gains and losses on, you know, plant and equipment retirement, inventory liquidations. If you liquidate everything and get rid of your capacity, you may get a bonus there in some way, but it's not going to count in here on the recap score. And you know, you've got 60 points at stake there, and that's a lot. And so you can really undercut your long-term success by doing foolish things in the final round there. So just play smart round to round, and you'll have a nice healthy recap score, and don't pull any end game shenanigans, and that's really the way to go there. Let's take a look at the pro forma balanced scorecard as we close out. This is in your decision making sheet, and it's a really useful tool for decision making, you know, because it shows you kind of these same bands that I clicked through on the balanced scorecard: no credit, partial credit, full credit, you know, red, green, green, and yellow here. And then it shows you a pro forma score for your round. Now this throws some students and participants off because they think, well, what I need to do is make decisions here to get this score as high as possible. And you're in for a big disappointment if you play that way, because you can, you know, if you have a bad forecast, if you think you're going to get 50% market share, 60% market share with the sales forecast and the pricing model that you have, you know, you can get 80, 90 points down here in your round score and yet be totally disconnected from competitive reality. And so the way you want to use your pro forma balanced scorecard is to make a set of decisions and see what the score looks like across different sets of decisions, and maybe do some tweaking in between. But it'll show you your round-to-round score and then the impact on your recap score down here as well. So it's a pretty useful tool as well to help you make decisions. So these are your pro forma decisions, meaning given the decisions that you've made, these are the scores that we expect. And then you have your actual results here that you look in on your reports function to see your actual round-to-round scores, to see what actually happened there. And as long as you're using your pro formas as a decision-making tool rather than a navigational tool, so to speak, you should use them correctly and do very well. So that's a quick view of the Balanced Scorecard. I hope it's useful. Thanks for watching.